The Kellian Republic had enjoyed 500 years of peace. Across 12 beautiful star systems, different alien species lived together like one big happy family. They were all plant eaters who loved to trade goods and share stories. They had never seen real war, never needed to fight for survival. Their biggest problems were usually disagreements about shipping routes or trade deals. Admiral Veltar was old, even by Kellian standards. His green skin had turned pale with age, and his 4 eyes had seen countless peaceful negotiations. He spent most days in the orbital command station above the capital world, watching cargo ships move between planets like slow-moving fish in a calm pond. Life was good. Life was safe. Then the Ravager horde came. At first, nobody believed the reports. A mining station on the outer rim went silent. Then another. The Kellians thought it was equipment failure, or maybe space pirates. They sent security ships to investigate. Those ships never came back. The truth hit them like a brick wall. The Ravager horde was not just another alien species. They were living nightmares. Their ships looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh. They didn't want to trade or talk. They wanted to eat everything alive. Veltar watched his peaceful world crumble. The tactical display in his command center showed red dots spreading across the star map like a disease. Each red dot meant another colony was gone. Another million people dead. "Sir, we just lost the Meridian colonies," his aide reported. The young Kellian's tentacles shook with terror. That's 3 whole systems in just 2 weeks. Veltar felt sick. The Meridian colonies had 2 billion people. Families, children, all gone. The Ravagers didn't just kill them. They consumed everything. The planets, the moons, even the space stations. They left nothing behind but empty space. "How many ships do we have left?" Veltar asked. "Maybe 200, sir. But they're cargo vessels and patrol boats. Nothing that can fight these monsters." The Kellian military was a joke. They had built their ships for rescue missions and police work. Their weapons were designed to disable, not destroy. Against the Ravagers, it was like fighting a forest fire with water balloons. Veltar closed all 4 of his eyes and tried to think. His people were dying. Soon the Ravagers would reach the core worlds, where billions more lived. The Kellian Republic would become extinct, just another dead civilization in the galaxy's history books. "Bring me the forbidden files," he whispered. The aide looked shocked. "Sir, those records are classified. The Council banned all contact with those worlds centuries ago. The Council is about to watch our species get eaten alive. Bring me the files." Deep in the most secure vault on the capital world sat records that gave Kellian leaders nightmares. These were files about worlds too dangerous to visit. Planets where the lifeforms were so violent that even looking at them was considered unsafe. Most of these worlds were dead now. Their inhabitants had killed themselves in endless wars. But one file stood out. A small blue planet called Terra, far away on the edge of the galaxy. The creatures there called themselves humans. The report was terrifying. These humans had invented thousands of ways to kill each other. They had built weapons that could destroy entire planets. They had fought wars that lasted for years, killing millions of their own kind. They had nearly wiped themselves out several times, but they were still alive, still fighting, still growing stronger. The file said humans were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. They didn't just fight to survive. They fought for fun. They turned killing into an art form. They were so violent that other species refused to make contact. Veltar stared at the blue planet on his screen. Every instinct told him this was insane. Calling these human monsters would be like asking a pack of wolves to save sheep from other wolves. But what choice did he have? His hand shook as he typed a message. It was simple, desperate, and honest. "Help us. We are dying." He pressed send and watched the signal disappear into space, heading toward the death world called Earth. Either These humans would save them, or they would make things even worse. But doing nothing meant certain death. At least now they had a chance. Captain Jake Morrison was having another boring night at Luna Station. The communication center was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from the deep space monitors. He was on his third cup of coffee, trying to stay awake during the graveyard shift. Most nights, the only signals they picked up were random radio waves from dead stars or old satellite broadcasts bouncing around space. Jake had been doing this job for 15 years. He was a tough guy with gray hair and scars on his hands from his time as a Marine. Most people thought monitoring space signals was easy work, but Jake knew better. He was humanity's first line of defense against anything coming from the dark between the stars. At 3:17 a.m., everything changed. The computers started going crazy. Lights flashed. Alarms beeped. A signal was coming in from deep space. But this wasn't random noise. This was a message. From someone very far away, and very scared. "Holy cow," Jake muttered, sitting up straight. "This is actually happening." The translation software worked overtime, trying to figure out the alien language. It was like nothing in Earth's databases. The words were strange, but the emotion behind them was crystal clear: fear, panic, desperation. As Jake read the translated message, his blood ran cold. These weren't just aliens saying hello, they were begging for help. Their people were being slaughtered by something called the Ravager Horde. Entire planets were being consumed. Billions of lives snuffed out like candles. The message included tactical data that made Jake's military training kick in. This wasn't just war. This was genocide on a scale that made Earth's worst conflicts look like playground fights. "Get me Admiral Davis. Right now," he barked into his communication device. Admiral Rebecca. Davis was the kind of woman who scared politicians and made enemy generals wet their pants. She had spent 30 years in the Earth Defense Force, fighting space pirates and hostile alien probes. She was tough as nails, and twice as sharp. When Jake's call woke her up, she knew it was important. 6 hours later, Davis stood in the most secure room in the Pentagon. The Joint Chiefs of Staff sat around a massive table, looking at holographic displays showing the alien message. Some of them looked excited, others looked worried. Davis just looked angry. "The Prometheus fleet launches in 2 days," she announced without any small talk. "We're going to help these aliens." General Martinez, a heavy-set man who worried too much, shook his head. "Admiral, we don't even know if this message is real. What if it's a trap? What if these aliens are lying to get us involved in their war?" Davis had already thought about that. She pressed a button, and new data filled the holographic display. These were intercepted communications from the Ravager Horde itself, even through the computer translations. The messages were chilling, cold, hungry. They talked about eating worlds like humans talked about ordering pizza. "Look at this," Davis said, pointing to the alien transmissions. "These Ravagers don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They consume everything alive. Does this sound like beings capable of lying or setting traps?" The room fell silent. The Ravager communications were unlike anything they had ever seen. Pure predatory instinct. No emotion except hunger. "They're not just killers," Davis continued. "They're the perfect predators. And those plant-eating aliens who called for help, they're prey animals. They never had a chance." General Martinez still looked uncertain. "But Admiral, Earth's safety comes first. Why should we risk our people for aliens we've never met?" Davis smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a shark makes before it bites. "Because, General, predators like these don't stop when they run out of easy prey. They keep hunting, they keep eating, and eventually, they come looking for new hunting grounds." She gestured to a star map, showing Earth's location relative to the alien distress signal. "Right now, They're busy eating those peaceful aliens. But what happens when they're done? When they've consumed everything in that part of the galaxy? They'll start looking for new food sources. And Earth, with its 4 billion humans, will look very tasty. The room erupted in worried chatter. Davis let them talk for a moment, then slammed her hand on the table. "We have a choice," she said loudly. "We can fight these monsters now, while they're distracted and far away. Or we can wait for them to finish their current meal and come knocking on our door." General Martinez nodded slowly. "So this isn't really about helping aliens. This is about protecting Earth." "Exactly," Davis replied. "The best defense is a good offense. We hit them now, while they think they're the apex predators in the galaxy." She looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military leaders. Time to show the universe what real predators look like. Commander Lisa Thompson had seen war before, but nothing prepared her for what waited at the edge of Kellyan space. The Vengeance, her state-of-the-art destroyer, dropped out of hyperspace, expecting to find a battle zone. Instead, she found a cemetery. Broken pieces of metal floated everywhere like tombstones in space. These weren't just destroyed ships. They were the remains of entire civilizations. Space stations that once housed millions of aliens were now twisted chunks of debris. Moons that had been covered in cities were gone completely, turned into floating rocks and dust. "Sweet Mother of God," whispered Lieutenant Mike Rodriguez from his sensor station. His hand shook as he read the data. "Commander, they didn't just attack these places. They ate them. The planets, the moons, everything." Lisa stared at the main screen, watching pieces of someone's home drift past like snow. Each fragment told a story of families, dreams, and lives cut short. The Ravagers hadn't just killed these people. They had erased them from existence. "How many lived here?" she asked quietly. "According to the old Kellyan records, maybe 8 billion across 3 moons," Rodriguez replied. "All gone." The bridge fell silent. Every human on the ship was thinking the same thing. This could have been Earth. This could have been their families floating in the dark. Then the Ravager scouts showed up. 3 bioships emerged from behind a dead planet, moving toward the human fleet like hungry sharks. These weren't machines, like human ships. They were alive, grown rather than built. Their hulls pulsed like beating hearts, and strange lights flickered along their sides like nerve signals. "They're scanning us," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from communications. "Wait, I'm picking up their transmissions. They think we're just another species of prey animals." Lisa smiled coldly. The Ravagers had spent so long eating helpless plant eaters that they had forgotten what real predators looked like. "Rodriguez, target those scouts with the railguns. Let's educate them." The Vengeance's main weapons weren't lasers or missiles. They were railguns that fired chunks of tungsten at incredible speed. When those metal projectiles hit something, they didn't just damage it. They tore straight through it, like bullets through paper. The first Ravager scout died before it knew what hit it. The tungsten slug punched through its biohull and came out the other side in a spray of alien blood and metal. The creature's death scream echoed through space on every frequency. "Direct hit," Rodriguez called out. "That thing is definitely dead." The other 2 scouts tried to run, but human weapons were faster than alien fear. Within seconds, all 3 Ravager ships were floating debris. "All ships, this is Thompson," Lisa broadcast to the entire human fleet. "The enemy has made contact. Weapons are free. Time to show these monsters what apex predators look like." The human fleet spread out like a pack of wolves surrounding prey. 47 warships, each one designed for one purpose: killing things efficiently. The humans didn't fight fair like the gentle Kellyans had. They fought dirty, using every trick they had learned in centuries of warfare against each other. Captain Ben Cooper's cyber warfare ship launched computer viruses at the Ravager, but the aliens had never seen digital attacks before. Their living ships started turning against each other as human-made viruses corrupted their nervous systems. Colonel Danny Hayes led the Psychological Warfare Division, broadcasting horrifying sounds and images directly into the Ravager hive mind. For creatures that had never known fear, the experience was devastating. Some Ravager ships simply stopped fighting and fled. The kinetic bombardment was the worst surprise for the aliens. Human ships fired tungsten rods at nearly light speed, turning massive Ravager nest ships into expanding clouds of superheated gas. The aliens' bioholes, designed to absorb energy weapons, were useless against solid projectiles moving that fast. "Enemy formation is breaking up," reported Lieutenant Foster excitedly. "They're trying to retreat." But Lisa wasn't finished. The humans had learned something important during their own bloody history. When you fight monsters, you don't wound them, you destroy them completely. "Pursuit formation," she ordered. "We're not letting them escape to eat more innocent people." For the first time in their species' existence, the Ravager horde experienced something new. Terror. They had always been the hunters, never the hunted. Now they faced predators that were faster, smarter, and more vicious than anything they had ever encountered. The surviving Ravager ships sent desperate messages back to their main fleet. The transmissions were filled with panic and confusion. They couldn't understand how their perfect bioships were being destroyed so easily. "Commander," Rodriguez said with satisfaction, "I'm picking up their distress calls. They're calling us the Devourers of Devourers and the Nightmare Species." Lisa nodded approvingly. Fear was a weapon too, and the humans were experts at using it. "Good," she replied. "Let them be afraid. Let them tell their friends what happens when they mess with the wrong species." The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. Admiral Davis was not the kind of person who did things halfway. When she decided to fight the Ravagers, she didn't just want to push them back or make them go away. She wanted to hunt them down like the monsters they were. The human fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves, using tactics that would have shocked their peaceful alien allies. Captain Tom Bradley commanded the stealth frigates, ships designed to be invisible until it was too late. His vessels could sneak up on enemy formations without being detected, like sharks swimming in dark water. But Bradley's ships didn't carry normal weapons. They carried something much worse: computer viruses designed by Earth's best hackers. "Target acquired," Bradley whispered into his headset as his ship Ghost Rider approached a massive Ravager world ship. The alien vessel was the size of a small moon, covered in bioorganic armor that pulsed with life. Inside were millions of Ravager drones, all connected to the ship's central brain. "Deploying viral payload," his tech officer announced. The virus was a masterpiece of human cruelty. It didn't just damage the Ravager ship's computer systems. It made the ship think its own body parts were enemies. Within minutes, the massive world ship began eating itself alive, its biohull dissolving as the nervous system went haywire. Back on the flagship, Admiral Davis watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Red dots representing Ravager ships blinked out one by one as her fleet systematically destroyed them. But her communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, we're getting another message from the Kellians," Foster reported hesitantly. "They're asking us to tone it down a bit. They say our methods are too extreme." Davis raised an eyebrow. The gentle Kellians were getting squeamish about how humans fought wars. They wanted their enemies defeated, but they wanted it done nicely, with minimal suffering. They didn't understand that sometimes you had to be a monster to stop monsters. "What exactly are they complaining about?" Davis asked. "Well, they're upset about the cyber warfare attacks. They say making the enemy ships eat themselves is inhumane. They also don't like the psychological warfare broadcasts. Apparently, driving the Ravagers insane with fear violates some kind of galactic warfare convention." Davis looked at the tactical display again. Another Ravager world ship was dying, its biohole consuming itself from the inside out as human. Computer viruses corrupted its nervous system. The sight filled her with grim satisfaction. "Tell our Kellyan friends something for me," she said coldly. "Their moderate approach got 3 billion of their people eaten alive. We're not here to play nice with genocidal monsters. We're here to exterminate them." Foster looked uncomfortable, but relayed the message. Davis didn't care if the aliens thought humans were too violent. Sometimes violence was the only language predators understood. The Ravagers tried to retreat, pulling their remaining ships back into the dark spaces between star systems. They thought they could hide in the void, lick their wounds, and maybe try again later. They were wrong. Colonel Jack Harrison led the pursuit squadrons, specialized ships designed for long-range hunting. His pilots were volunteers who had lost family members to alien attacks over the years. They were motivated by something the Ravagers couldn't understand: revenge. "All units, this is Harrison," the colonel broadcast to his squadron. "Remember, we're not just stopping these things. We're making sure they never hurt anyone ever again. No survivors, no mercy." The human ships followed the Ravagers into the deepest parts of space, places where stars were few and planets were dead rocks. The aliens tried to scatter, hoping some would escape to rebuild their swarm. But human ships were faster, and human sensors were better. One by one, Harrison's pilots hunted down every fleeing Ravager vessel. They destroyed nest ships, support craft, even tiny escape pods. Humanity had learned hard lessons from their own bloody history. When you fight a dangerous enemy, you don't leave survivors who might come back stronger. "This is Pilot Kelly Wong," came a voice over the radio. "I've got 3 Ravager scouts trying to hide behind that dead moon. Permission to engage." "Permission granted," Harrison replied. "Light them up." The human ships used weapons the Ravagers had never seen before. Guided missiles that could think for themselves. Energy beams that could cut through any armor. Kinetic weapons that hit with the force of small asteroids. But the worst weapon was human determination. The pilots didn't stop when the enemy surrendered, because the enemy never surrendered. They didn't show mercy, because the Ravagers had shown no mercy to billions of innocent people. Finally, only one Ravager ship remained, the command vessel of their entire horde. It was trying to escape to another galaxy, carrying the genetic templates needed to rebuild their species. Admiral Davis opened a communication channel to the fleeing ship. She wanted them to hear this. "Attention Ravager command ship," she said in a voice as cold as space itself. "This is Admiral Davis of the Human Defense Force. You came to this galaxy thinking you were apex predators. You thought you could eat whoever you wanted without consequences. The massive alien ship tried to increase speed, but human engines were faster. You were wrong," Davis continued. "This is how your story ends. Not with negotiations or treaties or mercy. This ends with extinction. Your species dies today, and the galaxy becomes a safer place." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. The Ravager command ship, largest and most powerful of their kind, died in a ball of fire that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The hunt was over. The predators had become prey, and humanity had sent a message to the entire galaxy. Earth protects its friends and destroys its enemies completely. The celebration on the Kellyan capital world was supposed to be joyful. Streets filled with grateful aliens, dancing and singing songs of victory. Children who had hidden in bunkers for months finally came outside to play. The Ravager nightmare was over, and they were alive. But Admiral Veltar couldn't shake the cold feeling in his stomach as he watched the human warships patrolling his home system. The sleek, deadly vessels moved through space like hunting sharks, their weapon systems constantly scanning for threats. These weren't the desperate saviors he had called for help. These were apex predators, who had just claimed new territory. "Sir," The humans are requesting a meeting, his aide reported nervously. They want to discuss the future of our relationship. Veltar nodded slowly. He had summoned devils to fight monsters, and now the devils wanted their payment. Meanwhile, on the bridge of her flagship Retribution, Admiral Davis studied the holographic star charts with satisfaction. The Ravager threat was eliminated, but something even better had happened. Word of humanity's military power had spread across the galaxy faster than their ships could travel. Status report, she ordered her staff. Captain Emily Watson stepped forward with a datapad full of diplomatic messages. 12 alien species have formally requested human protection in the last week alone. The Zephyrian Trade Union, the Christek Collective, even the proud warrior clans of Altair. They all want Earth's military backing. Davis smiled slightly. Fear was an excellent diplomat. What about hostile responses? She asked. Lieutenant Ben Cooper looked up from his communications station. 7 species that were planning territorial expansions have completely canceled their military operations. The Mordok Empire actually sent us their complete fleet positions and promised to stay within their current borders. Smart of them, Davis replied. The galaxy was learning quickly that there were new rules to follow. Watson continued reading from her reports. The Kellians are asking about the terms of our protection agreement. They want to know what humanity expects in return for defending them. Davis had been thinking about this moment since the first battle. The humans had proven they could destroy any threat in the galaxy, but destroying enemies was easy. Managing a galactic empire would be the real challenge. Draft something called the Terran Protection Accords, she ordered. Keep it simple. Any species that threatens galactic peace gets the same treatment we gave the Ravagers. Complete extinction. Any species that wants our protection just has to ask nicely. And the price for protection, Watson asked. Free trade with Earth, shared technological research, and complete honesty about any military capabilities. Oh, and they acknowledge Earth as the galaxy's primary peacekeeping force. Lieutenant Cooper frowned as he processed the implications. Admiral, what if some species refuse both options? What if they don't want our protection, but also don't want to give up their independence? Davis turned to look out at the stars through the bridge's main viewport. Each point of light represented solar systems full of alien civilizations. Some would accept human leadership willingly, others would need convincing. Then they learn why. Earth got classified as a death world in the first place, she said calmly. The hard way. The truth was, humans had never planned to become galactic overlords. They had just wanted to stop genocidal monsters from eating innocent people. But once you demonstrate that you're the most dangerous species in the galaxy, everyone else starts looking to you for protection. Within 6 months, the Terran Protection Accords had been signed by 43 different alien species. The agreements were surprisingly fair. Humans didn't demand tribute or slaves. They didn't force aliens to worship human leaders or adopt human customs. They just wanted peace, trade, and the understanding that Earth was now the galaxy's ultimate authority. Of course, not everyone was happy with the new arrangement. The Kellians, despite being saved from extinction, sometimes complained that human methods were too harsh. They wanted gentler peacekeeping, more diplomatic solutions to conflicts. Admiral Davis usually responded to these complaints by showing them recordings of Ravager attacks on peaceful worlds. That usually ended the arguments pretty quickly. The most interesting development came from Earth itself. Humanity's home planet had suddenly become the most important world in the galaxy. Alien ambassadors arrived daily, bringing gifts and requests for audiences with human leaders. Earth's technology advanced rapidly, as different species shared their knowledge in exchange for protection. But the biggest change was in how humans saw themselves. For centuries, they had worried about being alone in a hostile universe. Now they knew they weren't alone, and they were definitely the most dangerous thing in that universe. Status on the Outer Rim Patrol. Davis asked during her daily briefing. All quiet, Admiral, Cooper reported. 3 more species requested protection agreements this week. Word is spreading that it's much safer to be humanity's friend than its enemy. Davis nodded approvingly. The galaxy was learning to police itself under human oversight. Pirates thought twice before raiding trade routes. Aggressive species canceled expansion plans rather than risk human intervention. Wars between alien civilizations had dropped to almost zero. It wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. And peace, Davis had learned, was worth fighting for. Keep monitoring all communications, she ordered. The moment anyone starts planning something stupid, I want to know about it. The galaxy had traded one set of apex predators for another, but these new predators protected the innocent instead of eating them. As long as everyone remembered that simple fact, the stars would remain a safe place for peaceful civilizations to grow and prosper. Earth had become the guardian of the galaxy, whether it wanted the job or not.